Well, hello, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of the From Chaos to Peace podcast, where I talk about how clutter is so much more than you think, and we put a spiritual twist on clearing that clutter to get organized. Thank you so much for allowing me back into your ears. Well, hello, my friend. I'm Conny, Graf, your host. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing? Thank you so much for letting me back into your ears. Because today, very exciting, I'm kicking off a new series. I'm aiming for 12 episodes, but we'll see how many there will be in the end. I want to bust some of the myths about decluttering and getting organized that I hear the gurus and the so-called experts shout out from the rooftops. And you might think, well, you're an expert too, Conny, but I don't call myself an expert. I'm not an expert in decluttering and organizing. I just share what works for me. I share what works for my clients. I don't want to be an expert. We're all just learning. We're continuously learning what works. And so I want to expose some of these gurus and experts and what they're telling you to do. Because chances are that you've heard a lot of advice like only touch something once, or everything must spark joy, or if you haven't used something in a year, it must go. But here's the thing, all this advice that is treated like sacred cows, those are all just old bulls, not sacred cows. Old bulls producing a whole lot of bullshit that you end up having to clean up. So in this series, I want to break down each myth, explain why I think it's nonsense, and give you a better, more doable approach instead, or at least I want you to consider a more and better doable approach. So hear me out. I want to dive into the first myth now, and myth number 1, ta-da, is I want to bust that decluttering is a one-time event. This myth suggests that decluttering is something that you can do once and then be done with it for the rest of your life. A lot of people are told and therefore believe that this is a one-time event. And that's why I'm starting here, because if you can shift that mindset on this one myth, it will be a game changer that you need. So let me ask you, have you wanted to declutter your home or office for a while already? Have you read a book or maybe some blog posts on how to do that and where to start? And maybe you have even listened to this podcast on how to get from chaos to peace, but you still didn't do anything because you think you don't have enough time to start? The reason that this happens is that, again, a lot of people think it's a huge project and that they need to block off a whole weekend, or some even told me a whole week to do it. But of course, they don't find such a big chunk of time anywhere in their busy calendars. And besides, who wants to declutter for hours or even days on end? Not me, and I think it's safe to assume you don't either. So let me put my foot down and say decluttering is not a weekend project and it is not a one-time event. While you can try to do it this way, and a lot of people do, I really advise against it. Trying to declutter everything in one go is exhausting, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and that's also why it doesn't work. Especially when you're trying to approach it as a big project for the weekend. It's like trying to go and run a marathon when you just started jogging again after years of not doing anything. So when you spend a weekend or even an entire week decluttering, or let's say if you try to, because I would argue most people don't even manage to succeed in this. But even if you're trying to or approaching to, and you actually found this big chunk of time in your calendar, oh, surprise, you will be so exhausted afterwards that you won't do anything for a while afterwards. Other than sitting on your couch watching helplessly how all that clutter creeps right back in. Why? Because you haven't changed anything in your behavior that created the clutter in the first place. So it creeps back in more and more again until you take another attempt to fix it in a weekend, which by now you realize it really was never a one-time event. So here's my take. It's nothing new if you listen to my podcast for a while already. But if you're new here and new to my podcast, listen up, please. Decluttering is not a one-time event. Instead, it is a journey. It's a journey of mostly small, maybe sometimes a little bit of bigger steps. It's not that you can do it in one swoop and then you're done for the rest of your life. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. And as you grow and evolve, your space evolves with you. Your habits evolve with you. And so no sacrificing weekends for clearing piled up clutter if you're constantly taking care of the flow of stuff that comes into your life and business and letting go out naturally again. So to say it in another way, clutter is a lot like dishes or laundry or bathing. It's an ongoing process. You're never fully done with decluttering. But that doesn't mean you can't live in a clutter-free environment. On the contrary, actually, if you're doing it in an ongoing basis, over time, it becomes just what you do. It is just your lifestyle. And then you're in control of your stuff, and the stuff doesn't longer control you. And you're actually living in a clutter-free environment, not like with the other approach where you most of the time live in a cluttered, unorganized environment that drives you cuckoo, and then you go on another decluttering marathon to be a few days kind of organized and decluttered to then just start the whole spiral from scratch. Now, the starting small, I get a lot of pushback where people say, oh, no, Conny, I have such a mess and it's so much stuff. Just a few minutes a day, that will not do the trick. But that is a big misconception, because if you're just doing it as a kind of one-time event, which you have to repeat over and over, so it's actually never a one-time event. But if you do it that way, you're also not getting anywhere. You're just treading water, right? So if you would maybe just give it a try, what I say, and start decluttering a few minutes a day on an ongoing basis, you will see that you actually will feel fairly quickly way more organized than you ever did, even after the marathon decluttering sessions that you were trying to force into your schedule. So you really don't need the hours to start. You start small. I often suggest 5 to 15 minutes. If you're a little bit more advanced, then maybe you can go to 20 to 30 minutes. But I wouldn't do more, really. Like maybe once in a while here and there, you actually feel motivated to do something more. But in my experience, most people really try to take on too much and then they crush and burn. And that's actually the opposite of what you want to do. You'd rather want to stop when you could still go a little bit longer and continue on the next day than overexhausting yourself mentally, emotionally, and even physically and energetically to add that component to then stopping when you can still stand on your both legs, right? So if you're a regular listener of this show, you know I say a few minutes a day keeps the chaos away. And that's really how I stay organized. And again, I'm not organized like in a picture-perfect, Instagram-worthy environment. We have to live, right? We're human beings. We have things. We need things. We don't want to live in a sterile, perfectly organized, perfectly put together environment. That's just for the glossy magazines or for the Instagram post, which you will not find on my feed if you noticed, right? So I want to give you a real quick how you can start with these few minutes a day. And you can do that almost every day, right? Like, again, 5 to 15 minutes. And I even have podcast episodes where you can listen to me talking about a topic or even walking you through such a decluttering session. and doing it instead of just sitting there and listening. Or what I do, I often listen to podcasts while I'm driving, but now I have to be more concerning and thinking like, if I want to take action right away while the host is talking about something, then I can't be driving. So I have to be more strategic when I listen to podcast episodes. So what you could maybe do is you could have a 5 to 15 minute session every day for decluttering, and either you listen to a podcast episode that you find. I have 260 episodes now, so I'm sure you'll find something. Or you listen to 254 A or B that walks you specifically through a decluttering session. Or, of course, I would be sad, but you could also listen to somebody else, of course. But anyways, so I want to just tell you what you can do. So it's really, really simple. Every day, you do 5 to 15 minutes. You gather your supplies, which is also very simple. Either 2 bags or 2 boxes or 2 baskets. It doesn't matter what. And then let's go with bags, because bags are easy to carry around. So you have 1 bag for garbage and recycling and the other one for donations. Then you set a timer. You have a phone for that. We all have timers now on our phones. You set a timer for 5 to 15 minutes, however long you want to do. And then you start walking around in your home and your office, and you grab all the things that you know you don't want and use anymore. And if any item can still be used or be useful for somebody else, you put it in your donation bag. But if it's broken or overused, or you don't think it will add value to anybody else, then put it in your recycling and garbage bag. And I want to make sure that you know, don't overthink it. Just pick the obvious things. That's how you start. You go around in your home and you pick the obvious things. We all have obvious things, right? Unless you're really fairly decluttered and clutter-free, you may not have obvious things anymore. But anybody else still has obvious things. Just walk around 5 to 15 minutes. Don't overthink it. Pick the obvious things and put them either in the garbage recycling bag or into the donation bag. And when the alarm goes off and the time is up, empty the bag with the garbage and recycling into your garbage and recycling bins. And the items from the donation bag. So what I do is I have a bigger bag in a closet that I fill with these items that will go to Goodwill. And when it's full, or when I know I go towards that area, or towards the area where my preferred Goodwill place is, I will take it in a car and drop it off at Goodwill. And so you could do something similar. I just have a bag where I actually collect things. And so even when I'm not in a 5 to 15 minutes decluttering session, I often see something and I think, oh, I really don't need that anymore, but somebody else might need it. So then I just drop it into that bag that I have in that closet, right? So you could do something similar. And of course, we all can fine-tune this process that I just laid out for you, how to declutter. But that usually ends up in making things way too complicated. And actually what I want you to do is to get started and not wasting time on creating a fancy process. Really not. It's really about getting started. And you don't have to have it all figured out yet. You can just, again, start with the most obvious things and do it very simple. Let go of garbage and recycling, drop off something at Goodwill once in a while, maybe every month or every 2 weeks, depending on how much stuff you have in that bag, right? And that's it. And that really is it. And the more you do it, you will be amazed how quickly things start to shift. And your thinking will also shift, and your brain kind of will be focused on seeing the clutter and wanting to be organized, because it has already experienced how it is to be a bit more organized and more streamlined, right? So then you go from there. Like I said, it's a journey. It's a journey full of tweaks and adjustments and making sure it works with your workflow, with your life, with the stage of life you're at. And so a few minutes a day keeps the chaos away. And, if you make these small, consistent steps every single day, even if you just start with 5 minutes a day, you're building that habit. You're training that decluttering muscles. You're training that organization muscle. And over time, this habit sticks, and your environment stays clutter-free almost effortlessly, because you're constantly and automatically, almost on autopilot, you're maintaining it. And that's the power of momentum. So maybe by now I beat that myth to death enough, right? That decluttering is a one-time event. I hope I succeeded to convey that this is not a big purge that leaves you exhausted and overwhelmed just to watch the clutter creep back in. Instead, it is a journey, a lifestyle, automatic habits eventually, right? That a few minutes a day really keeps the chaos away. Also, the more supportive your environment becomes, the more it frees up your time. Because if you are aware or not, every single thing you have, and especially if you have a mess, that uses up a lot of time and a lot of brain energy, and it stresses you out. Even if you're used to it, you will notice that if you're starting to be in a more organized, supportive environment, that you're less stressed, that you're less tired, that you have less of a brain fog, and that you have more time for other things. Okay, that's it. And next time we'll tackle myth number 2. And myth number 2 is a clutter-free home equals a clutter-free mind. And that might not be true, sorry to say. But for now, I want you to think about this. How would it be, and how would it feel if your home and office didn't stress you out anymore, but supported you? And supported you in the things you wanted to do and needed to do? How would it be, and how would you feel if you were in control of your life, especially now that the world out there seems to be out of control? How would it be if you felt more in control of the things around you, and not the things controlling you, but you are actually controlling the things? How would it be to wake up in a serene, calm bedroom, to shower in a spa-like bathroom, get your coffee from a dirty dish-free kitchen? How much more successful you think you could be if you started your day in an organized office on a clutter-free desk? Okay, that's it for today. A few minutes a day keeps the chaos away. Thank you so much for joining me today and listening all the way to the end. Have a beautiful and amazing week, and please subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes, especially not the myth-busting episodes. See you next time. Take good care and be safe.